Keep going.
Yeah, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. Just go. We'll never get an opportunity if we.
This is part one, whatever Brandon says it is.
Part one. Sure. Okay. What's up, fam? We got some lit cameras here. I can't do that. Okay. Okay. Lingo. Look cool for the children, so they know to shop here. Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. I was going to say lit again, but I can't. I can't do it. Okay. Hey, everybody. So today we're going to do some cool stuff. We're going to take some old lenses, new lenses, and we're going to put them on something they weren't meant to go onto, right? So we're going to adapt the old stuff to the new stuff, and we got new stuff that'll go on the old stuff, which is cool. So one of my favorite things about mirrorless cameras is that because they don't have a mirror, you can use these adapters that we've got. So what I've got here is an old Russian Helios lens. Every time I showed them to the old guys who worked here, you know, the people who've been here for a while, like Jeff, they basically sneered at me and said they were garbage. But yes, they are kind of. They're very cheap, but the nice thing about them is that they're cheap. And they have an interesting look to them. And it's not a clean, like, sharp picture like you would get with some of the modern glass or even some of the really sharp older glass, but it does have a very unique look to it. So even though it was crappy back then, now it's good because it was crappy, right? It's like the Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones, where she's like all big and giant and she's like making her feel bad when she's a kid. Well, it's like it's a positive when she grows up, right? So that's what we did with these. These are the Brienne of Tarth series of lenses, but this is a bit smaller. That's like a Tyrian lens, but that really doesn't follow the analogy. What was I talking about? Oh, these. Yes. So this is a Helios 44-2, and this is screw mount, which, as you can see, just screws in. It's got these tiny little threads on it. Screw mount stuff is really popular right now because a lot of them have very smooth focusing, a really smooth throw, we'd call it. That's great for video. It also, this one's pretty cool too because it is called a preset aperture, right? So there's actually 2 aperture dials on it. I can go from 2 all the way up to 16, but the aperture itself is controlled by a second dial here, so it makes for really, really smooth declicked aperture. So if you're going from like outside to inside or inside to outside, or if you just want to kind of do like a you know, fade kind of thing effect with this, with video, it's really handy. Plus, if I can go all the way to 16, but I can also say go just to 4. So if I know outside f4 is the correct aperture, but inside f2 is the correct aperture, I can put it at 4, and then I can only go from 2 to 4 as my range, which is really handy. So that's called a preset aperture, I believe, I think, right? Maybe? Yeah? Okay. We're going to call it that. So, screw mount, really cool. Pentax and the, the Super Takumar Pentax lenses are really popular. I've actually got one, a couple. These are mine here. This is the Super Takumar 135 2.5. I believe there's an F2 as well. That's the rarer, more sought after one, but this is right in the middle. There's also a 3.5. This is a 35 3.5, and this one's little teeny tiny. And what I've got here, so I've got my adapter. So I've got M42 to EOS, right? That screws on and off. But then I got this other part here, which is called a focal reducer or a speed booster, and that basically, because this is a crop sensor camera, so the sensor's smaller than what the, like, think of a lens like a projector. This projects a bigger image than the size of this camera. This is made to cover 35mm film. This is smaller, right? This is called a crop sensor. They do make full frame, you know, mirrorless cameras as well, but Fuji doesn't, and that makes me sad. But I like to be the underdog. So what I have here is, this is EF, by the way, because EF is the biggest mount. So I can get the expensive adapter with the glass in it. I only buy one of those, and then I buy whatever else I need to Canon instead. So these are cheap. This is about $200. This is a Zhongyi Lens Turbo, which is about a $200 adapter. It was when I got it. It's okay. The what were those expensive ones everybody was talking about? Like, they were the first ones to do it. Metabones. Metabones. Please excuse the phone ringing. We still have to work. So basically, I can put whatever I want on it for the most part. I really like this one. This is a very clean lens, the Super Takumar 135. Highly recommend it. Also, Helios 44. Also highly recommend it. Now, screw mount. So, that's not the only thing we can do. Well, I'm just going to leave that on there, actually. And actually, FD lenses like this one here are excellent. These are very cheap. So this is for Canon AE1s, it's called a breech lock mount. So this is an FL, which was the original L lenses. This is a 51.4 SSC FD lens. So, very sharp, very fast, really cheap, just for,
right on here.
Say what? Yep, and Alan, as he was just saying, is using one right now, and you're looking through it. So, that's the 51.8 FD lens, and that one is the same that you'll get on most of your AE1s. That's the one that it comes with. There's a couple different kinds. The FL versions are the L glass. There's a 51.4, the SSC. There is a 51.8 FL, the FD, which Alan is using, and there is a myriad of other FD glass lenses out there, or FD mount lenses out there, and they're all really cheap because so there's something called the flange distance, right? And that's basically what our adapter does. So the adapter, if it's just a regular, I just call them dumb adapters. I think that's pretty common. Most people call them that. But what they do, it's just a tube. This is from Minolta to Fuji. And they make all this stuff for Sony too. This is just what I have because I got to be a hipster. You see the mustache, right? Goes with my aesthetic. So what's great about these tubes and mirrorless cameras is that all this thing does is just pulls the lens the correct distance away from the focal plane, which is your film or your sensor in a digital camera. Now, these lenses, the FD lenses, traditionally, and one of the reasons they're super cheap, you couldn't put it on an SLR that didn't have the correct mount because the flange distance was too short, right? If it's too long, that's different. You can just add an adapter to it and it gets it about the right distance. But if it's too short, you'd break the mirror. Like you wouldn't be able to work, right? But with the mirrorless cameras, you don't have to worry about that. So if you want to get into adapting lenses and buying old stuff, which has cool look to it, then definitely go for the mirrorless cameras. Full frame is better because you're getting the entire image, but you can get a focal reducer if you want to. It's just not quite as cost effective. Okay, so now on to the lenses that Alan, our cameraman, who I'm sure you know by now, uses. This was my baby, and I'm glad it went to a good home because this is a beautiful old lens. If you see one of these, definitely buy it. Don't ask questions. Just make sure it's not got any fungus in it or anything. This is a Carl Zeiss Sonar 135 f2, and this, I'm sorry, 2.8 T-Star. Right, T-Star is just the lens coating on it. Makes it a little bit sharper, less reflection, that sort of thing. This thing is gorgeous. It's really clean, super smooth focusing. Right. This was for contacts. So contacts was pretty prevalent. You've probably heard of them if you're a younger person, or probably an older person too. Is like the Contax T whatever 3 T4, whatever that really popular point and shoot camera is. I mean, they're really, really good glass in these lenses. So if you see anything that says Contax or Carl Zeiss, in any capacity, then just buy it if you can afford it, because it will probably be a good lens. If it says Carl Zeiss Jena, that means that it was probably from Soviet Germany after the war. Zeiss split into two sides, so if it says Zeiss, then it's the better stuff than the stuff that says Zeiss Jena. But a lot of the Zeiss Jena stuff is good too, because same designs, same engineers, different quality control and government type. Now, this one here is a Fuji. What is this, Alan?
It's the 55 macro.
Oh, the 55 macro, 3.5. I don't know anything about this lens. I haven't tried it. This is Alan's lens, so maybe we'll do a cutaway and he can talk about it, quality-wise. But, there's a bunch of different lens mount designs. You can get cheap adapters. They're usually about $10 to $15. We sell photodiocs, which tend to be some of the more popular ones. They're really well made. If you go on the big guys sites, the big box stores, they have a lot of different brands, and in my personal experience, it's really hit or miss. So if you're just playing around, that's one thing. But if you really want to use it, then definitely come here and get our photodiocs ones, because they're made well enough to get knocked around and beat up, and you want your equipment to take care of you and not the other way around. You don't want to have to baby your stuff. I want to be able to knock this stuff around, get some real use out of it. Now, here, what is this? This is just a Sony E-mount.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Was this for you? It just got stuck in. Okay. This lens, actually, no, this is actually a good instructional thing here though, because this is an 85-1.4 Rokinon, right? And you'll notice, look, the back of the lens is just a tube. So it's like they took the adapter, and instead of making it so you could take it off, it's literally screwed to the lens right there. You can see the screws. I bet you if we took these screws off, we could put a Canon mount on it. It's just a tube. It's just to get the flange distance right. It's great. It sounded like a broken light bulb. Okay, so that is old lenses coming onto new cameras. Everybody does this, right? I mean, there's probably a million YouTube videos. I'm surprised you're seeing this, right? About adapting lenses. But this is where, for me, it gets really fun. We're just going to slide this stuff over.